Negar Mortazavi is a senior fellow at the Center for International Policy. She joins us from Washington, D.C. There is a certain amount of sympathy with Iran's argument that they were actually doing what they agreed to do under the nuclear deal, the JCPOA, that they were actually doing everything that was being asked of them. But it was the US that pulled out. Is this now a direct consequence, as Iran says, that of the US pulling out?
Absolutely. I was actually just in New York in meetings with the Iranian president, foreign minister. They reiterated what was also said in his speech at the UN, that they see this as a sequence. The sequence is they sat down, negotiated with the United States, signed a deal, which was called the JCPOA under President Obama, and we're abiding by that deal, where out of nowhere came another president, different party in the U.S., which from the Iranian viewpoint, it's considered domestic politics change in the U.S., and President Trump just didn't like the deal because it was an Obama deal. So he pulled out of the deal. The U.S. basically, as Iran was abiding, and it's been downhill from there, from 2018, 2019. Iran waited for the Europeans to make up the economic space of the U.S. abandoning the deal. That also didn't happen because the Europeans were also afraid of more U.S. sanctions imposed on them and affecting their trade. And so since then, Iran has seen both the U.S. and Europe in non-compliance with the deal. The Iranians also started their own non-compliance, and now we are where we are. Another important point the Iranians emphasize is the 12-day war, the fact that they were negotiating even with this U.S. administration. And while those negotiations were ongoing, Israel attacked Iran and the United States then joined. So from their viewpoint, this is a different world now post the 12-day war and also that sequence, which I just explained.
But what this has done, these snapback sanctions have done effectively then, is killed any kind of diplomatic process. There isn't a diplomatic track right now as I see it. Do you agree with that?
I don't want to say it completely killed it, but yes, it got very, very close. I would say it has narrowed the path. I know the Europeans are still saying there's a path to diplomacy. Well, they just help narrow that path as much as possible. I don't know how that path to diplomacy is going to, succeed after this. I think this was an escalation by Europe. Unfortunately, the Europeans are now in reversal of their previous role. They used to be the party that were interested in diplomacy. They were really facilitating, helping, providing the space, the location, lots of facilitation to make things easier between Tehran and Washington. And this is the opposite of that, at least recent historical role of Europe. They are now more in the camp of the U.S., moving towards escalation, or at least laying the ground for more conflict and escalation. And I think it's a really counterproductive move that the Europeans have done. And it's really narrowed the space, if not completely closed the door to further diplomacy.
Let's talk about internal politics within Iran itself. There was a significant chunk of Iranian establishment, let's say, that were very suspicious of the US generally, but they went along with the original deal because they felt this was a path forward. Those voices are getting louder. We can't trust the US, says Iran. The US doesn't stick to its agreements. So internally, is there pressure now building just to walk away completely?
Absolutely. That pressure has been there, like you said, before the U.S. withdrawal. It was a hypothesis. It was a hardline conservative. Even some called it a conspiracy that the U.S. is going to come sign a deal and then not abide by it. In fact, that was the accusation that they leveled toward Iran, saying, oh, these Iranians are going to sign a deal, then not abide by it. And then we saw that actually happen. What did that do? That seriously weakened that moderate and reformist and pro-diplomacy position in Iran and gave a win to the hardliners to say, see, it's no longer a hypothesis. It's not even a conspiracy. This is what we predicted would happen. I think that push and pull and sort of that internal debate still exists in Iran. I don't think the pro-diplomacy camp has completely lost or been isolated. I mean, the president himself is a moderate. He ran on a platform of pro-diplomacy. The foreign minister is from the JCPOA negotiation era. And so I think that interest to resolve it diplomatically is still there. But at the same time, Iran wants diplomacy within their own perimeters, with their own red lines. They want to reserve and save this nuclear program for civilian purposes. They want to continue to be able to enrich. And now they've even given their lives for this program. So it's become even more difficult for them to negotiate it away or to concede it and to project more weakness and then potentially invite even more attacks. This is the argument that if we give up now after we've been attacked, this is going to be the message that whenever we want anything, we just go and attack them and then get more concessions.
Negar Mortazavi, thank you very much for your thoughts. Fascinating as ever.
Thank you.